beyond. Not like a back and forth conversation.
Right, just public
like,
comment.
Yeah.
All right, you both ready?
Uh-huh.
I'll call to order this meeting of the Orange Township Board of Trustees for a zoning hearing held on July 23rd, 2025. Administrator Bonnie, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Ringel,
Here.
Trustee Faust,
Here.
and Trustee Knapp.
Here.
You please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you to our residents who are attending this evening. It's good to see resident participation in our zoning conversations. For those of you who are not familiar, and this might be a little bit foreshadowing our Director Duffy, Zoning Director Duffy's presentation he's going to go through, but we've been spending quite a bit of time, several years as well, going over our zoning code to make sure that it is more manageable for residents, and I'm excited to see the culmination of input the community has provided so far, not only in our multiple open houses, but to the zoning commission that is now before this board for review in greater detail. We'll have a presentation, I believe, by Director Duffy, and then we'll open up the meeting for public comment on that presentation, and the board, I'm sure, will have additional questions and comments before we potentially continue the discussion to another meeting as well. So without further ado, I'll turn the meeting over to Director Duffy.
Thank you, Trustee Rangel. Thank you, Board. Thank you for the opportunity to present this new zoning code to you. Thank you to all the residents who gave up a portion of your Wednesday evening for this meeting. I'm looking forward to discussing it. We're going to start with just some project history and kind of how we got to where we are today. I don't know if we'll get too into the weeds tonight, but we can follow up with any questions, comments that the board has and go from there. So as you'll see on this project timeline slide, this goes back quite a number of years. There's what we're considering 3 phases to this, starting in 2018. Which was when Orange Township updated its comprehensive land use plan. I believe the version prior to that was in 2010. So in 2018, the board and the zoning department, under the direction of Ms. Michelle Bonney, engaged with the Ohio State University to update our comprehensive land use plan, Planning Orange. That was done in 2018. So that was kind of the first portion of this project. Fast forwarding to 2019 was kind of the second portion, zoning diagnostics, where we contracted with a consultant to kind of do a deep dive into our zoning code and see what the issues were and how best to fix them. And then following in 2021, is when we kind of officially started our zoning code rewrite project. Work really got underway in 2022 and onwards. It's been a multi-year process of writing and rewriting and revisions, which has taken us to where we are today. I won't go through each bullet point on that timeline, but it's there for your reference, and we can flip back to it at any time. So, as I mentioned, the first step was our comprehensive plan back in 2018. This was done, like I mentioned, with the City and Regional Planning Studio program at The Ohio State University. So that took place over a number of months to bring in graduate students who were studying planning and help us create this document, which is the currently adopted land use plan for the township. It was adopted in 2018 by the Board of Trustees. Just pulled a quick quote from what comprehensive planning is. This is a direct quote from the plan itself. Comprehensive planning is a process that is used to create goals and a long-term vision that will guide future growth and development in a community. So in planning school, we talk about planning as a process a lot. It's not just a document, but it is a process where you engage the community, you engage stakeholders, there's lots of public outreach, public feedback. So all of that was taken together to combine into one document, which is an aspirational vision for what the township can look like in the future. It is an adopted document, but it's not necessarily a strict policy. It's more, this is the vision for what we want the township to look like. Then how do we get there from here? So the next slide, we did look at specific zoning goals from the comprehensive plan. So these are goals that came out of that planning process, again, all the way back in 2018. So I pulled a few of these which are particularly relevant to our discussion this evening. So goal Z1 was to consider amending the zoning code and map to enhance the community's image and promote pedestrian-oriented development. And then we had sub-strategies for each goal as well. I won't read all of them verbatim because there is a lot of text there, but things to consider. One of the strategies was to consider new mixed-use zoning district. The second strategy, create a new commercial overlay district with development standards and design guidelines that encourage walkability and build community identity. And strategy Z.13, to review and consider changing density requirements to achieve the community's vision for the township's physical development. Also pulled goal Z4 from the comprehensive land use plan to review and revise development standards to encourage a sustainable physical environment that meets Orange Township's community character and aesthetic standards. And the sub-strategies for this one, to review parking requirements, both in terms of the number of parking spaces and also their location and screening. Strategy Z4.3, consider amending the signage requirements to ensure that they are legal and consistent with the community character. And then strategy Z.4, review existing development standards in all zoning districts. So just kind of at the end, by the way, you may want to look at everything. So following up the 2018 comprehensive land use plan, we did our zoning diagnostic, again led by Ms. Bonnie and the zoning department at the time, which did predate me, but in 2019, Orange Township contracted with CalFee Zoning, which is now known as ZoneCo, so we did work with ZoneCo later in the process as well, so I'll refer to them as either CalFee Zoning or ZoneCo, but they are the same organization for the purposes of our discussion. So again, 2019, we contracted with them to do this deep dive into our zoning resolution and figure out, okay, what are the needs and then how do we address them? So that was in 2019. The full report was delivered to the township in early 2020. So the general principles in the zoning diagnostic, and these are not adopted principles of Orange Township. These were principles that the consultant provided. So one, I wanted to make it clear that these three principles are the lens through which the consultant looked at our zoning code. So again, not necessarily our policies, but as a professional planner, I do agree with them and want to highlight them just so we're all on the same page. So general principles in the zoning diagnostic, one is that zoning should respect existing and reflect desired development patterns. I think all three of these are important, but I think that first one is especially important, and so I will highlight that and come back to it probably a number of times in this presentation, that it should respect the community that is existing currently, and then the zoning code should also reflect the desired development patterns that we want to see in the future. Two, that zoning should regulate only what needs to be regulated and focus on the desired outcomes. And then three, zoning should be the implementation of a plan and not a barrier to achieving a vision. And so, looking at the comprehensive land use plan, which is the ultimate vision of where we want to go, zoning should help achieve that and not be a barrier to achieving it. So these are some of the conclusions from the zoning diagnostic. These are not all of them, but I pulled these because, again, I thought they were particularly relevant. So this is looking at our currently adopted zoning code and trying to, figure out what is wrong, if anything. And the consultant did pull these conclusions. I'm not going to read all these verbatim because, again, it's a lot of text, but just the Cliff's Notes. The zoning resolution fails to effectively permit housing diversity and pedestrian-oriented development. Minimum parking requirements are excessive and contribute to the sparse development patterns. In most cases, setbacks, lot sizes, density standards, and building heights are currently prohibitive to creating the kind of character that is desired in the plan. Again, that plan is the comprehensive land use plan. The generally applicable section is lacking regulations that should be present, such as landscaping and buffering, streetscaping, context-specific signage, parking reductions, drive-through regulations, and others. So items that really should be in a zoning code were not. Part of that is just inconsistency. So in some of our districts, we did have certain standards, but not in all of them. And this report noted that you might want to think about adding those so that it is uniform. Bullet point number 5 there, the document would benefit from some reorganization and streamlining. And then the last bullet point, the ubiquitous application of planned districts for most of the land in the township will create unique opportunities and challenges in the future. I will come back to that point a little more detail a bit later on, but planned districts, just for the sake of our discussion, are unique zoning districts that are unique to a parcel or set of parcels that are basically geographically limited, so that parcel has its own set of zoning rules. And so those were the conclusions looking at our current zoning code, and these were the recommendations, again, from the consultant. These are pulled verbatim. I won't read them verbatim because it's a lot of words. But again, Cliff's Notes, reorganizing the document to standardize language, adding some introductions, some administration and procedures, overhauling definitions, enhancing readability of the zoning resolution by using tables and graphics and not pure blocks of 340 pages of text. Developing design guidelines and landscaping requirements that promote the kind of aesthetics that the community desires. Removing zoning districts that are not applied anywhere in the township, because we do have several of those. Employing development regulations that encourage infill development within the township's commercial corridors. Increasing density maximums and decreasing lot sizes where possible to begin utilizing land more sustainably and efficiently within the township. And revising the signage section and adding common signage types that are clearly defined. Our signage section, quite frankly, could use a lot of work, so it has been overhauled. So that was the zoning diagnostic portion of this long process. So following that, again, that was in 2020. In 2021, you can see on that earlier timeline that the process started to get ZoneCo, formerly Calfee Zoning, now ZoneCo, on board to help us write a new zoning code. So we started working with them in early 2022 to create that new zoning code for the township. We did hold public open houses in May 2022 and July 2023 to kind of present some early concepts from the zoning code to allow the public to comment on those, take that feedback into account, and just spread the word that, hey, we are working on this project. We held a public presentation of kind of the first official draft in March of 2024. That was here in this room. I believe several people in this room were in attendance for that event. We took more feedback and made more revisions from that point. So the document probably looks a little different than it did then, but we are pleased with the progress that we've made since then. But that was kind of the first official draft of the code. We started working on edits following that meeting in-house in the summer of 2024. So this was kind of where our involvement with ZoneCo came to an end. We were pleased with the product that they gave us in terms of a new update to our zoning code. Townships are very unique, and Orange Township especially so is unique among townships. We have just a lot of unique characteristics here. Townships are not always this large or this complicated. And we kind of felt that in order to carry this project to the finish line, township staff would ultimately be the one who would kind of make the final tweaks to the code and carry it forward through adoption. So the Zoning Commission formally initiated the amendments to the zoning code in September 2024. They held 8 meetings since September, so roughly 1 meeting a month, sometimes more, sometimes less. Those averaged about 2 hours, so the Zoning Commission has spent 16 hours of meeting time plus multiple hours on their own reviewing this code, discussing this code, and holding those hearings where we did get some good public feedback as well, and all of that has shaped the document to where it is today. So why a new code? And these are my words and not just pulling from the recommendations from the consultant. So our last major zoning code update was in 1993. Orange Township looks a little bit different than it did in 1993. We felt that this update is needed, long past due. That's not to say that there haven't been small updates. Since that time, we have edited as we went to a certain point. But when you get so far down the line, sometimes just a big overhaul is needed, and that is what we felt. And we can see that with many current developments requiring variances or divergences in order to proceed. And that's everything from new commercial builds to decks and patios. And then you can see that in the number of divergences when it goes through the rezoning process here with the Zoning Commission and Board of Trustees, and then variances with our Board of Zoning Appeals. When we start to see those same things over and over, that gives us a clue that maybe it's time to think about updating that regulation if we see the same issues over and over again. So the new zoning code will add new districts and delete unused districts, so we're just trying to make it a little more right-sized there. Add standards and responding to current trends and conditions. So the goals with the new code are to have consistency, transparency, maintain an attractive community and a high quality of life, and ease burdens both on residents and businesses in the community. So what does this mean? I do want to make it clear that current properties will not be changing zoning districts. That was a difference from kind of the first iterations of this new code. We had anticipated rolling over all the properties in the township to new zoning districts. It kind of became clear to us that that was not feasible or desired. And so none of the zoning districts that are on a property today are going to change at all. So with that, the character of the parcels is going to be remaining the same. So residential will stay residential, commercial will stay commercial. We're not looking to rezone properties as a part of this process. Every structure and use that lawfully exists today will be able to remain. Again, even if we're not necessarily changing the standards for the majority of parcels in the township, but even if we did change something, we can't change something and then tell a property owner, hey, we changed the rules, you can't do that anymore. If it's existing and we change the rules, then it is allowed to remain. This also does not impact HOA regulations at all. Those are separate from zoning, so each neighborhood that has an HOA, which is the majority in the township, those rules will continue in full force. We do have two current districts that will have standards that are changed, and that's FR1 and C2. There are some properties in the township that are zoned in those districts. Those do have some development standards that are changing. We don't anticipate those causing any issues in terms of nonconformities, but just something to be aware of. Because planned districts are, again, unique zoning districts to a property, those rules are basically set in stone when it is zoned. But the straight districts do have standards that can change over time. And so I keep talking about these new districts. They'll essentially be options for rezonings in the future. So again, when we're creating a new district, it's not necessarily being put on the zoning map immediately. It is just an option for future rezonings. So, as mentioned, the current zoning system is almost entirely a series of planned districts. We have a folder in our shared zoning drive on our computers that has a list of over 230 planned districts in the township. So there are over 230 sets of unique zoning rules in Orange Township. That creates a lot of challenges administratively. It creates challenges in terms of transparency. It's, again, difficult to administrate. It may not always be fair. I don't want to uniformly malign planned districts. Planned districts have their place. They do have a lot of advantages, too, where they can be uniquely suited if there's any parcels that have special circumstances. So we do think that there's a place for them moving forward. But when there's so many, they do create a lot of challenges. So new zoning districts that we're looking to implement are primarily straight zoning districts, where zoning rules are uniformly applied to all properties across those districts. So if you have one property that is zoned in a straight zoning district, it will have the same set of rules as a property on the other side of the township in that zoning district, which is not always the case with our planned districts. So those new zones will include a mixed-use zone, which we do not have in our current code, so a mix of commercial and residential uses. It'll include a neighborhood zone, which is single-family, community living, which is a multifamily zone, commercial corridor, which is commercial, and flex employment, which is industrial. Again, those are all straight zoning districts that will not immediately appear, but they will be options for the future. Lewis Center Village is proposed to have its own overlay district. Overlay districts are strange creatures in terms of zoning districts where we refer to it as cloud-based zoning, where it's applied to a geographical area, but those regulations don't come into effect unless a property owner requests that they be applied to their property. And so Lewis Center Village has a lot of unique historical context that we wanted to, one, geographically limit and then take into account and try to make projects feasible for those property owners. So we are proposing that as an overlay district. I don't have it on the slide, but the current Route 23 corridor overlay district, which is applied currently to a lot of the Route 23 corridor, that's proposed to go away in this new draft. And then there will also be a catch-all planned unit development for unique projects. Again, we're basically trying to set up these buckets of, okay, this project is going to go into the single-family neighborhood zone, this project is going to go into the industrial zone, but if there's any projects that don't fit the standards that we've set up, then they do have the option of going into a planned unit district where they essentially create their own standards and request approval for what they are trying to do. So, what is different? So again, we're hoping that these new zoning districts help streamline the development process, provide consistency and flexibility down the line, that it's easier for everybody to understand. It doesn't necessarily involve negotiation of development standards. It's a lot more clear, and then there are release valves such as a planned district, such as variances if the straight district regulations are too stringent. Design standards for commercial buildings, that's something that we don't have in our current code because we want commercial development, but we don't want necessarily a bunch of pole buildings to spring up everywhere. We want high quality building materials. We want architectural features so that there aren't just blank concrete walls everywhere. We want to maintain aesthetic standards that residents have come to expect in Orange Township for a high quality of living. So also new is buffering between commercial, industrial, and residential properties. It's something that, in our current code, we have a 100-foot setback whenever commercial or non-residential uses a residential zone, but we don't require any necessarily buffering, landscaping, screening in between those uses. Generally, developers are okay with providing some screening, but this, has standards that we can enforce, that developers know beforehand that, if you're coming up against a residential property, you have that 100-foot setback still, but you also have to have, some kind of screening in order to, make quality of life better for existing residents who are going to be your new neighbors. Landscaping requirements, which includes street trees that are outside of the right-of-way, but trees that are to be planted by any new development. And if those trees or shrubs die, then we would have the ability to make the property owner replace them, which we currently do not have. Parking lot design, trying to lessen the number of just seas of asphalt, including pedestrian walkways, islands and landscaping, trying to break it up and make sure that there are trees planted in parking lots. Again, for peat island effects, for green space, for stormwater, those all have benefits, making sure that people can get safely from the parking areas to the building that they are parking at. And then also a requirement of sidewalks and multi-use paths, just trying to make sure that our active transportation network is built out to the extent possible and built by any developer who wants to do business in Orange Township. Signage also is going to look pretty different. This is something where we've had to totally rehaul our signage chapter. Signage will be regulated by type and not by content, which is how our current code does it. So really the results of this shouldn't look that different, but it's a big difference in how we administrate it. Signs in the right-of-way will still be prohibited. One of the big variances that the Board of Zoning Appeals sees a lot is a maximum height for wall signs that's capped at 15 feet. So we are proposing to remove that maximum height. Focus would be on the size of the sign, so it could maybe be a little higher up on a building, but it would be smaller and hopefully less obtrusive that way. Pole signs will remain prohibited, so there won't be the 50-foot, gas station logo on top of a giant pole. We don't want to see that. EMCs or electronic messaging centers or electronic signs will be permitted only for institutional uses. That's for churches, schools, government buildings, not for the Speedway or any other gas station, fast food, any other business. And then we are proposing to allow temporary commercial signs with limitations, acknowledging that if a business has a special sale or a grand opening, or they need to hire somebody, that they can have some kind of temporary signage, usually with a permit, that allows it for a defined amount of time. That we want to provide businesses that flexibility while not allowing the yard of every commercial business to be cluttered with signs and start to look junky. And then definitions is something that isn't the most exciting topic, but a lot of times when it comes down to is something allowed in zoning, a lot of times we have to look at the definition, and if the code doesn't define something, then that if our legal counsel likes to say if there's a tie, then the tie goes to the property owner. So making sure that we have a lot more definitions than we have in our current code, and making sure that those definitions are pretty airtight so that we are seeing the type of development that we want to see. What's the same? So as I mentioned, existing plan districts will remain the same. So if your property is zoned single-family plan residential, it's going to remain the same with all the same development standards that exist today. So nothing is being rezoned or changed with anybody's property as it stands today. The procedures for zoning changes, for rezonings, and then Board of Zoning Appeals, that's all going to stay the same. Most of that is enshrined in state law. Really the one thing that will change in terms of procedure is that we will no longer advertise in the newspaper because state law has allowed us to do that. However, it is in our current zoning code that we will advertise in the local newspaper. So instead we will notice zoning hearings by sending mail to nearby property owners, and then also notifying HOAs, putting it on our Facebook, on our website, and just trying to modernize that process a little bit. Nonconformities or grandfathering in, again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't anticipate anything where we're telling somebody that, oh, you can't have that anymore, you can't do that anymore. But even if we were to do that, we can't just change the rules and pull the rug out from under somebody's feet. They are legally allowed. It's called a legal non-conforming status to continue what they are doing with their property. Enforcement procedures is going to stay the same. So if we get word that there's a possible violation of the zoning resolution, we'll still have the same procedures and abilities to enforce the rules that we have in place today. And then lighting regulations is one of the things that when we looked at our current code, we thought, these standards are pretty good. They're in line with what we want to see. It's still the 20-foot pole height, full cutoff fixtures. You can't have lighting trespass on somebody else's property. So those are by and large staying the same. So in terms of where we are today, the Zoning Commission has recommended approval of this new zoning code. They held, again, 8 hearings over a series of months. A lot of productive discussion in those meetings. Those are all available to watch on YouTube. If anyone on the board or anyone in the audience would like to go back and review what was discussed, those are all available for public consumption. And that, again, that is 16 hours of discussion on zoning. So we appreciate the Zoning Commission's work and diligent feedback over the last 9 months or so. It's not a perfect document. We do know that there are still some formatting issues to work out. Usually when I show people this latest draft, they say, hey, did you know that this doesn't look quite right on this page? And yes, we do know. It's something we're going to work out probably before the next hearing. But in general, the content is by and large in a good place, but we do have some formatting kinks to work out still. So please forgive your zoning department as we work through those. This is a zoning amendment. It follows the same process as any other rezoning or zoning amendment that has come before. So the Zoning Commission held their hearings, issued a recommendation, which was of approval, and now the matter proceeds to the Board of Trustees. That's why we are here today, and that is the overall process. So next steps, we're not necessarily looking for your approval and adoption of this code this evening. It is 240-ish pages of new law, essentially. It's a lot to dig into and get your head around, so we want to make sure that you, as the Board of Trustees, have sufficient time to review and process this, that the public has sufficient time to review and process this. So our recommendation at this time is to continue this hearing to a later date, just to make sure that everybody has time to look at it, to give feedback, and so that we can make any changes moving forward before our next hearing. The draft code is available on our website for review and comment. We do have our handy orange zoning email, which is orangezoning@orangetwp.org. If you do have public comment or feel free to grab my card on the way out, I'm happy to set up a meeting with anyone, take feedback in person, over the phone, email, however you would like to give your comments, we're happy to discuss. So this is not necessarily the final product, but we are pleased with where the document is today, and we appreciate the board's consideration. That's all I have for a presentation for now.
Thank you very much, Director Duffy. In your presentation, you did mention that there were going to be changes to FR1 and C2. Would you mind highlighting those?
Sure. So a lot of it is updating. I think particularly with FR1, I know the minimum lot size dropped to 1 acre. That does make it consistent with both Liberty Township and Genoa Township. I believe some of the setbacks dropped a little bit as well. I'm not quite sure what they are off the top of my head. If you give me 30 seconds.
What was it before it was 1?
It is currently 1.98 acres, just under 2.
And what was the rationale for that?
1.98 is a very odd number. You know, again, 1 is not necessarily set in stone, but looking at our neighboring communities, both Genoa and Liberty, it seemed to make sense that 1 would be the uniform number there. The setbacks did drop a little, so the front setback in our current code is regulated by the type of the road. This would make it a uniform setback of 40 feet, as opposed to, again, doing it by the type of road, which is laid out in Article 21.
Do you know what the range of setbacks was prior to it being, or what it is now currently?
I think for the next meeting, we can try to do like a then and now comparison with the FR1 and C2, because those are the only districts that we changed, if that's helpful.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be.
So that range, Ms. Knapp, was 60 feet to 80 feet, depending on the class of road.
I think it would also be helpful. There are lots of tables that we're incorporating into the new code, and the ones that we have in the red line draft it's not always the clearest to me what's being deleted and what's being added when it comes to the tables themselves specifically. So if we could have a clean version of the tables so we can reference those, I think that would be helpful.
And several of the tables we did end up just deleting. We felt that they were repetitive, so there were some master tables that showed all the development standards in every zoning district. We got rid of that.
And
some
that
of-
was from like the draft from last year to the draft that we
Correct,
have now,
yes.
right? Because none of these tables are in the current code.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
And those would probably be, if we can digitize them, and I'm sure they are digitized, but have them for display so that it's a little bit easier for residents to digest what type of reference material we have that we're incorporating in the new code. I think that would be good.
And the draft code that's online is the clean version.
That is correct.
Correct, so it is, yeah. That's what I reviewed. I reviewed the clean version when I went through checking against all my notes from the other times that I have reviewed it. The Lewis Center Village overlay, so say I'm a homeowner currently there now, and I wanted to do something with my property, can I utilize the zoning that I currently have? Like, say I wanted to add a patio.
Yeah.
Do I have to put on the overlay, or it's just like, if the current code doesn't apply, but the overlay does apply, then I could put on the overlay onto my property?
So most of the Lewis Center Village as it exists today is zoned FR1. And so those standards may change with the new code, but essentially a property that is zoned FR1 that is under the Lewis Center Village overlay has the option of going through the FR1 standards, which may require a variance. So you can try to get a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals, or if it fits the standards in the Lewis Center Village overlay, then they can request the Lewis Center Village overlay be applied to the property. The cloud is pulled down and applied, and then those are the new standards.
Okay.
Is that the only overlay in the zoning code?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
And then straight district, because we're doing straight districts, the bulk of them, that still goes through the same zoning process as what we have
Yes,
seen. And I've
correct.
only been in office 3.5 years, okay.
Yep.
All right.
So what is the purpose, what will we be discussing tonight?
This was as much as we wanted to get into, more like explaining the history and the why and big picture things, and then just hearing from you all what you would like to see more of, and then Robin and I can get together with the team to plan next steps for the review.
Could we hear from the residents
Oh, yeah.
and see what they comments they have, and then
Yes.
us decide what the next step would
Sure.
be?
Thank you, Director Duffy. All right.
Thank you.
If there are no additional questions at this time from the board, we'll open it up to public comment. So please come to the podium if you'd like to speak and provide us your name and address and any comments that you have. Direct your questions to the board, and we will direct them to Director Duffy or whoever might be applicable once you've asked your questions.
Or if you just have a comment, just share that. I don't necessarily see this as a back and forth conversation, but this is like, we want to know what your guys' questions are so that they can be answered in future meetings.
Well,
Or today, if
yeah, I would
Robin
like to,
can
I
answer
mean,
them.
that's why we
Yeah.
have the public here to answer
Yeah.
questions, so.
So are there any public comment at this time? Please do.
So my name's John Greger, so 6043 Trent Court. And the comment is, I noticed one of the goals of the zoning was to increase density and reduce minimum size. To me, that big question is why? Traffic's gotten so much worse. Seems like the last thing we need is to increase density, so I'm curious how that got into be one of the objectives of the zoning. And I know some of your questions, Lisa, were around setback and lot size around the FRC1, so I think that's something that would just ask everyone to focus on as this review happens, so that we're doing something about the density issues that we're already seeing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Doyle Hartman, you see what the address, 150 South Parkway Drive. Yeah, I had a couple questions. I really like the approach. I think it made it much more simplified, a lot of different things there. But one thing, and I had already maybe emailed Robin about this, but I was a little bit wanting a little bit more background on the neighborhood commercial district, just what that means, and that kind of thing, and how that, what the purpose of that is, and how that's going to be put into play. And then, I'm not necessarily advocating this, but I know when I did some development work within the city of Columbus in the past, they had a policy, as I understood at the time, that if you were taking down a tree, a 12-inch tree, you had to replace it with equivalent inches of tree or whatever, like 6 2-inch trees, replace it. Have we ever considered that? And maybe that's just a real pain. I don't know to try to enforce that, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not advocating it, but I'm just curious if that's ever been a part of the conversation. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
Yeah, Michelle, I think I had looked into the same thing, replacing trees, and there's something that happened, wasn't there a case where it was found to be, I think City of Delaware, they were required to pay a certain amount of money for every tree that was taken down, and then they would plant a tree somewhere else, and I think that was deemed to be, was it unconstitutional
yeah.
or something? I'm trying to remember, because I wanted more of that, if possible.
We do have, so it is added to have enforcement for if a tree is damaged or dead or something that it has to be replaced if it's part of the landscaping plan. That's part of their zoning. That's new, that's in here now, so.
But not if, say, the existing lot is an FR lot and it's like wooded and there's,
Yeah.
80 trees all over it, we're not.
Yeah, because we're not changing any existing zonings, that's not something we could do.
We can require it in future rezonings.
Yes. It would be within the landscaping standards that.
Well, is that specifically within the landscaping standards that
That's not included.
the
Existing trees?
the tree of an existing caliper would have to be replaced by?
No, it is not.
No.
Okay.
Is that a possibility? In
It-
order to, because, everyone here just mowing down all the trees.
Yeah.
Every single tree is going away.
Is it, I guess, is the concern of any tree on the property or like something that's part of their buffer requirements? I'm just trying to see how we would do
Yeah,
that.
well, if it's legal, which I'm still not sure if it is, but, being required to at least preserve a certain number of them,
Yeah.
or replace some
I
of
know,
them.
if it's in the middle of a forest or something, it's really hard for us to understand what all happened, especially if we don't have access on public property to see what happened.
But they can give us a tree inventory that we could at least reference. Is that something, and I'm not sure of the legalities, could you check to see if
Oh,
it's
yeah,
legal?
yeah,
Because I would
I'll-
like to have at least, it would be nice, because what they do now is just clear cut everything.
Yep, I will gladly look into that.
Additional public comment?
Nick McCoy, 1201 Franklin Street, Lewis Center Village. I have a general question. I don't want to get into specifics tonight about anything else. The advertisement for this meeting, no existing properties will be rezoned as a part of this process. I hear a lot of comments about not changing any existing zoning, but then you have this Lewis Center overlay, which to me is just a play on words of we're rezoning your neighborhood. Because it is FR1. So I want someone to explain to me, maybe I don't understand, that a property owner comes and they ask for this thing out of the cloud to be dropped down. It changes the requirements for everything that you can build. And allows me, who owns 17 lots in Lewis Center Village, to build 17 structures 35 feet high and 25 feet wide, based on the dimensions that are allowed to be built. I could knock down everything I have and build those. If an existing neighbor, an adjacent neighbor objected to that, what's the criteria? And I've looked through this, and I don't understand really the criteria for approval, because I think if you create dimensions that make it easier to build, what is your criteria for the zoning commission to say no to someone that wants to drop down the overlay that the zoning commission developed? And in effect, that's a play on words to say that that's not a rezoning process because you've effectively rezoned. Because what's my argument as an adjacent landowner to say, no, that guy can't build 17 marigold type, there's other ones that are being built that way, properties in the village, but the overlay says I can. That's what I would like to have answered, is to, it affects so little properties in Lewis Center Village, many of which are mine, and I'm arguing against myself being able to do that, because I'm very passionate about this, of how that's not a rezone of that area, because it is FR1 at that point. And it is unique in character, it is unique in how it's built. It's probably the oldest neighborhood in this township, or close to it. And when you're building there, the amount of variances you have to get now to build there are excessive. If you own 2 lots next to each other, you shouldn't have to get a variance between the 2 lots to build. However, if you're wanting to build in that village, I think the variance process serves a very important, I don't want to say impediment, but a check on what you're trying to build, to make sure that whatever you're trying to build is complementary to and consistent with the rest of the village. Rather than building a 2025, 35-foot tall, narrow building where there are not any 35-foot, 25-foot wide, narrow buildings in the village. That's what I repeatedly over the past year have liked to get answered. Thank you, appreciate it.
Robin, what was the intent of the overlay in that area?
Yeah, so it's a difficult situation zoning wise because most of those lots are zoned FR1. And like I said earlier, the minimum lot size for FR1 is 1.98 acres. Most of those lots are a third of an acre. And so in order for anything to be built, it requires, I think there was one house that was the variances were approved, I think, in 2022, and it had, 17 variances in order for that to be built. So again, zoning shouldn't be a burden on property owners, so it's trying to find that balance of reducing burden while, again, not allowing unfettered development. People shouldn't be able to build, whatever they want, wherever they want, but trying to strike that balance between allowing property owners to get the full value of their property and not allowing anything.
So is there something that would prevent Nick from putting 17 tiny little houses on his 17 lots with the overlay?
I would have to look at the lot specifically. So what we did in the zoning commission phase was we bumped up the side setbacks in particular for the Lewis Center Village overlay, so that realistically a house probably may not be able to fit just on one little parcel because they're so small.
Right.
And so it would require multiple parcels in order to do that.
So basically combining the parcels to be able, and a house going over, over the lines, basically?
Correct.
Okay.
Was that situation that you're referring to, was that an existing, an empty lot who was trying to build?
Yeah, so it's a house that is wrapping up construction now. It was built on 6 lots.
Okay, so someone sold their lots?
3 lots. It's across from, it's on Nick Street, I think, yeah. Just on the other side,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that my concern is the law of unintended consequences, where we put something together, we've seen this many times recently with the overlay with Evans Farm and, the self-storage unit. We've seen things that some people thought would not happen, but because everything was rewritten, it ends up things you don't think of. But if someone did come in and sometimes they hate, did the residents ask for that overlay to be placed over the Franklin, the old Lewis Center area? Did they request that?
No.
Okay, because I'm not sure if they would actually want that. If someone did come in and request a rezoning to, what did they rezone to? The house that was being built?
So they didn't rezone, they asked for variances from the Board of Zoning
Just variant,
Appeals
were they
from the
granted?
FR1 standards.
Okay.
And
So-
those can't be guaranteed.
Yeah, right, but to me, rather than giving permission to everybody. I would personally prefer, having to request permission for the few situations, because I am very concerned that entire area, the character could change in ways that are unimaginable. But, I mean, if, it seems logical if someone wants to come in and build a house, and it makes sense to request variances, and did they approve it? It seemed to make sense.
That one was approved, yes.
Okay, so, and
So-
did the neighbors object to it?
I was not at that meeting. I believe neighbors had concerns. I don't know if there were.
Nick's shaking his head no.
objections necessarily.
Not to
Yeah,
that.
but,
Oh, okay.
what do you say?
He's doing it by himself. It's gonna be a while before it's
Oh,
done.
I didn't
So it
know.
looks like here in the Lewis Center Village, the minimum side setback using, I'm assuming the overlay is 10 feet. Front is 25, rear is 30. And you are, like it says in there, minimum side setback is 0 feet for cross-property structures. So if anybody's,
So that's automatically granted, though. You come in, is it like the overlay that's
Correct,
automatically
yes.
granted?
Yeah,
So,
if you meet the standards.
yeah, I'm not sure if I.
Is
agree
there
with
a
that.
way to, I think, originally in the draft, we had a separate Lewis Center Village district. And the concern there was that we couldn't rezone, and we shouldn't be rezoning existing parcels. I'm guessing the pivot to an overlay was for, providing that flexibility over this specific area.
we didn't want anybody to utilize the Lewis Center Village standards, somewhere else.
Yes.
But it's a unique situation, and I'm afraid if we put the overlay over it and someone's gonna come in with something that no one's ever imagined, and they'll
Does
be
it-
able to build, I think it's better to grant, exceptions to the few than grant overall, because he is correct, it is changing every single parcel in that area.
If they choose to pull it
Yeah.
down, but.
But they have a more streamlined process through an overlay to potentially pull something down.
But because it's a nature, by nature of it being an overlay, there's not referendum, it doesn't even
Right,
come to us, right?
exactly.
It
And we've had problems with
finishes at the
that,
zoning
yeah.
commission.
And sometimes streamlining is not good. I mean, you can streamline all kinds of things, and it's not necessarily good. I just don't know how much of a problem that's actually been, and I think people could still ask for variances. I just think there would be a lot of unintended consequences for that. That's a very unique area.
Mm-hmm.
And people that live there love living there, and they live there for a
Oh, yeah.
reason.
So that section may need some additional.
Yeah, and
Looking.
it's on,
It's on your thing.
it's on my list, to meet with Mr. McCoy in the Lewis Center Village District. So, I would like to have further engagement with the residents there to see, if the overlay district is even a possible option, and if
Right.
not, then it stays as
Yeah,
FR1.
I'm pretty violently opposed to any overlays because of the fact that we have no control. If they build exactly what's being stated, we have no control. We can't ask for more bushes, we can't ask for more buffering, we have to approve it. And there's no referendum, so I don't think I like overlays at all, actually, in my opinion. Not in that area.
Any other discussion on the Lewis Center overlay at the moment? Other public comment?
Hi, my name is Susie Ross, 6792 South Old State Road. I've been a resident since 1988, seen lots and lots of changes. I really appreciate all the hard work staff and zoning folks have done on this. I do have a couple of concerns. One, besides, I agree with Mr. McCoy on preserving the character and the historical nature of the old village. That is a concern, but I won't say anything about that. The Electronic Messaging Center, EMC, we've had residents come to Board of Zoning Appeals very concerned that they don't want Route 23 in their area or any other area looking like Morse Road. And these types of signs are definitely, they're already being asked for, and they should be prohibited as they are in the new code. One thing I think we need to do, though, is have a really detailed definition of what that type of sign is. Because signage people will tell you that that is going to be the sign of the future. And instead of having molded signs or signs with channel letters or anything else, that they will be electronic signs instead. And there are so many different settings and things on them that are expected to be monitored by staff and by whichever decision-making body they come before. It's way above what we can possibly do. So I think that needs to be highly defined and regulated. And my biggest concern is the inclusion, and this is already in the code, the inclusion of houses of worship within FR1. I'm a person of faith. I'm not against anyone worshiping as they want to. I don't know whether it's a requirement within the state law that places houses of worship within FR1, but if you look at churches who are coming to our area, most of them, while they're looking for some place to meet, they're meeting in commercial areas. And it seems to me that it should be within commercial zoning or in one of the other development criteria, because, and also, before I forget, Eric Gaetsky, the senior zoning official, spent 2.5 hours with me. I've read the whole code through a couple of times, several parts of it, many times, trying to understand. And he met with me and answered every question and listened to every complaint and comment that I had. And I just wanted to thank him publicly. He's been wonderful. But my concern with placing a house of worship within FR1 is that it doesn't go through the development process. It comes to Board of Zoning Appeals. When it comes to Board of Zoning Appeals, there are only so many things that the people on that board can look at. They can't look at any of the things that Robin mentioned. He said that planning is a process, and that there are new features within the revised zoning code, such as landscaping standards, design standards for commercial building materials, aesthetic standards, architectural features, colors of buildings, green space, lot coverage, lighting, buffering, parking lot design. A lot of these are things that our zoning people are gonna be able to regulate. And I love that. I love the thought of replacing trees that are cut down so that we're a greener area. But when it comes to the Board of Zoning Appeals, we can't look at any of those things. We have houses of worship that come to us with pole barns, with flat buildings, that we can't make a decision. We cannot, we can do it legally, but morally, how do we look at that and say that that's a good use for that site and the neighbors that abut it, when we can't tell them where that building sits on the lot or how close it is to them? When the plan that they bring to us may not be the plan that ends up being built. We have absolutely no say in any of it. We can't really even ask questions about it or give our input on it. So it seems to me that if it's possible legally, a house of worship should be under the same regulations as everything else. Now, as it is now, if it's approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals, it goes to staff to make those decisions. I think we have a wonderful staff. It's very highly qualified, very intelligent, good people. But is that really where you want to put those decisions? They would no longer be in a public meeting. Think about that. In a place that should be transparency should be one of our highest standards. And it takes all of those regulations out of the public eye and puts them behind closed doors. And I don't think we ever want to do that with anything in the township.
Thank you.
Is there a reason why they are? Is that for the conditional use permit? Is there a reason why they are in the FR1?
The only comment I could share now is that there are a lot of protections for churches and institutions of this matter. I'll have to work with legal counsel.
Can you look into that?
Oh, yeah.
That she makes a lot of good points I hadn't really
Yeah,
thought of. because-
to her, at BZA, they've had a lot of these challenges recently. I think she's, she's still here.
I would add on to that, because
Would you mind
Microphone.
coming to the podium?
it's difficult to, we hear these things on the zoning appeals board, and we're like, well, did you go and get approvals? And they're like, no, they sent us here to get a variance first. And we're like, well, we don't really want to give you a variance. We can't say this, but we don't want to give you a variance because we don't know what you're building. because your plans haven't been developed
Developed
enough.
enough.
But then, so it's this, it's a Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other. So the county is sending them to the variance, to the BZA to get a variance, saying, well, get your variances and then come back to us and we'll go over your plans. And then they're going through this cost analysis of, do we go get the variance first, or we do all these plans and then turn around and we get the county to say, yeah, this would probably work from a structure standpoint, and then they go to the BZA and they get their variance denied for some reason.
You mean,
So-
are you referring to a conditional use permit?
Well, it's.
Is,
this-
right,
this
to
was- This
actually,
was,
was-
area variance?
for a church?
Yeah.
So they already received their conditional use permit and then they were requesting a variance?
No, not really. They're
Okay.
in between. All I know is there were more people in that hearing than, I think we were at capacity for the room. Both for and against that. And, it's been tabled for the time being. But it comes up, and I will also support what she was talking about the electronic signs. I mean, it gets impassioned discussions about these signs and why they can't have them. And I'm all fine if you say, nope, no EMCs unless you're a church or a school or anything else.
And there was a really spirited discussion with the zoning commission specifically at the, as they went through the process, 2 EMCs. So I was comfortable with where we landed, which was, churches and schools.
But it says institutions. Is institutions defined
Yes.
in the code?
Yes.
And what is it? What is it
Every,
defined at?
every word is defined.
Almost. What is
I mean,
it?
like, every use on this table is defined.
But what
let's
is
put it that way.
institutions defined as then? Does it just say churches and schools?
So it says it actually in the signage section. Let me pull it up. So it's within Article 22. It's 22.20.
That is a definition we can add to.
Yeah, and we can
Yeah.
tighten it up.
And what does it say? What page is that on? Let's see, 22.
Well, she's got the red line version. What section is it, Robin?
It is section 22.06. Permitted locations, EMCs are permitted for non-commercial institutional uses such as schools, libraries, religious institutions, and government buildings, subject to the other standards of this section.
But see, to me, it says such as. That's not really defined.
Should we say which are?
Yeah, I think we need to firm that, because I had a church asking about this, and I had looked this up.
Yep.
Church, schools, library.
Just one thing is that I really don't even think a church should have those. So I would cut that out of there too. Why are they any different than any other
Another business.
They're not an institution.
Yeah.
One
Schools,
thing I did-
libraries, government buildings?
We would have, I'd have
Yeah,
to
we
check
gotta
with
talk
legal,
to-
because I
see what
think
we're
they
allowed to
fall into the bucket of institution.
And I say eliminate them altogether. I don't know why. to
But
be
then we
honest.
can't have one at the fire station.
Well, the schools have them, that's why.
The school, or maybe just schools but, I mean, government, we're exempt from zoning, so we could have one if we wanted, the township. I mean, we get to make that determination.
And I-
So we could have one there, but I don't, I mean, I do have to say, I find them to be very unattractive, even the ones that are supposedly nice. And like you said, if you don't define the amount of flashes per minute and the
That was
hours
defined in
and-
here. That was all
There's-
defined in there,
yeah.
yeah.
If, just one last thing
Yeah.
before I forget, because I forget. I know you have a 200-foot notification on, is that on everything? In farm residential, some of the lots are bigger, and we had a house of worship put in across, kind of catty-corner across the street from us, and a bed and breakfast put on the other corner, and I didn't receive notice for either one. And I'm sure it's because I'm outside of the 200 feet, but I'm only 2 houses away. So that may be something, it's hard, because I don't want them to have to notice everybody in a subdivision.
Well,
But some of us fall in a tough place.
That's something I can also work with legal on. It is a state rule, or a state
Right.
regulation, but if there is an opportunity to reduce that for the zoning part.
I mean, increase it. Like, I think.
Oh,
the question
yeah,
is-
sorry, increase, yeah,
Right, yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I can look at the 200 feet rule.
So, yeah, there is, it just says LEDs, that has to turn off between 11 and 6, black screen and all these other things, but to me, I don't know why, I agree, I don't know why we would grant them special exceptions, because I think schools are also exempt from zoning if they didn't get permission, so there are already certain institutions that are already, so maybe we would just say schools and government buildings and cut it off, because I don't see the purpose. I mean, we kind of eliminated those from our community for a reason, because they're not attractive, in my opinion.
I'll just, play the devil's advocate for irony that we do have some churches already existing in the community that do have electronic signs. So I don't know that.
Oh, we do?
There's the, next to the newer McDonald's on 23, I think,
All Shepherds?
All Shepherds.
Is it electronic?
I believe it's partially electronic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that approved?
It might be
It was approved as
exaggerating
electronic?
the prevalence of those
For
signs,
BZA,
but
but yeah.
They get
something that we need
variance?
to consider.
When did they get a variance? Like years ago,
That's been
or?
around for a long time.
Yeah, I
Has
don't-
it? So there's only one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be considered legally non-conforming.
Non-conforming, yeah.
It's not going to make them take it out, but no.
No.
one can go
And
in.
they got a variance for it. So.
Yeah,
Is that the only one?
I don't know, I'm
I
sorry.
mean, there's a lot of places that do have.
We've been pretty strict on signage, so I would be surprised if there's a ton of them out there, but.
Yeah, I mean, we used to have pole signs too, and then, people replaced that. Even the Nissan dealership that came in for the BZA, there are certain exceptions, but I'm not really a fan of this. I think they're really, honestly, kind of tacky, in my opinion.
And I appreciate the work of the BZA that they have done to be so strong with.
Yeah, and I want to, and I
Thank
just,
you.
that was something that we didn't add just yet, but we did schedule a special meeting with the Board of Zoning Appeals to present this code, and have further discussion as well, because it's much of this has been with the zoning commission, so we're meeting with BZA August 28th, so.
Everybody, Paul Tout, 1385 Franklin Street, with my wife Amy. Mr. McCoy's neighbor. I like living in Orange Township. I appreciate Mr. Duffy helping me with some zoning things here and there. I do find it hard to exist in the village within zoning compliance sometimes, whether it's building an addition or running a home occupation. So I would appreciate being part of conversations to kind of tweak things to fit our needs or the nature of that area.
Thank you.
Again, Doyle Hartman, 150 South Parkway. I just wanted to go back to one of my earlier comments, and I was asking about the neighborhood commercial zone. Just a little bit more background on that, what it would mean and that kind of thing. Is that possible?
Yeah, Robin, do you want to?
Sorry,
it change?
are you talking about the existing C2 district, or?
No, in the code, they're talking about a neighbor.
It is the C2, yeah.
It is C2.
Oh, in C2.
Neighborhood
Yes.
commercial
In
zone.
C2, yeah.
Okay, so the existing one, in understanding the changes that are going on with that one, is that?
To be quite honest, I'm not even that familiar with the.
Right, that was one of my questions, like, where is this? And- does
It's
it mean?
really in Lewis Center Village District, right? Is there maybe a couple on 23?
Yeah, so there's approximately 10 parcels in Orange Township that are zoned C2. A couple of the existing commercial buildings along Lewis Center Road are zoned C2, and then some of around Orange Point, north of Lewis Center Road is zoned C2 as well. So a lot of the straight districts that we have in the code currently don't exist on any properties, but C2 is one that exists on just a handful. It's again, maybe 10 parcels. And so the goal was to keep that as consistent as possible with the regulations that are in there today. We may look at, again, because we didn't want to rezone properties as part of this plan, but possibly look at getting rid of those in the future and rolling them over into another commercial zone. But for the time being, we're just holding consistent with
Okay.
the regulations that are in today.
I did have a question about that too. I was like, are they gonna try and put a little like cute shopping area like right outside my subdivision, or that's what I was, so that's helpful. So.
Oh, where is that at?
No, I didn't get that impression from what you just said.
Not an active zoning
That's where my
application.
brain went, when I was reviewing, I was like, I don't really understand what this is.
Yeah, because you live in an existing plan district, so
Correct.
there would be no different uses aside
But
from
there
single
are, like
family.
along East Powell, there are 7 properties that are FR, like farm residential. So like, what if somebody wanted to put a little commercial, a C2 area right there where, I could in theory walk to a coffee shop or a restaurant?
Yeah,
We
but
can-
it's not
we
the
can-
land use plan, is it? to be
Nope,
commercial?
not in the land use
Nope,
plan.
nope, nope.
So
No
no.
commercial.
Yeah.
Nope. Not there.
Yeah, we can show the changes in the FR1 and the C2. I think
would be
that'll
helpful.
provide
That would
some,
be-
because
yeah.
there is an expansion on the conditional uses offered as well, so, we can provide some transparency to that.
Oh, I like the idea of people live in a residential area, they don't want a lot of commercial development. You know, that's why you live in a residential area.
Right, if you want to live in a residential or commercial, that's why you move to Evans Farms. 'Cause that's a whole
Exactly,
different
yeah,
use, right?
exactly.
Different
People
type
don't
of
want
community.
businesses
Right.
where they live.
Okay, so falling back to John's first question is, he talked about reducing density and decreasing the minimum lot size. Robin, can you speak to, because right now, our minimum density is 2 units per acre?
Correct, and I probably should have made this a little more clear in my presentation, that we're not necessarily looking to, exponentially increase density from what it is today. But a lot of the projects that have been approved in the last 5-10 years have contained divergences for density. And so we're trying to match the regulations with what is being proposed and what has been approved previously. So the proposed density in the neighborhood zone is three dwelling units per acre.
Okay.
There have been projects recently approved that are slightly under 3 units per acre. There have been some that were approved at over 3 units per acre. So trying to align what is being proposed with the regulations that we have today without, having somebody to request divergences.
But it's currently 2 units per acre, is that what the code currently states?
In the single-family plan residential.
Yeah.
district, yes.
And in the multifamily, we don't have a multifamily.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
We do.
We do.
And
It's
so-
4 now?
Yeah, so that's
Which is-
increasing from 4 to 8. Again, there are multifamily developments that are in that 7 to 8 dwelling unit per acre range.
But see, I know that we're trying to streamline it, but to me, if we have a regulation in place, then we can more easily negotiate things. So I feel in some ways by increasing the density, I don't know a single resident that exists now that says, I want Orange Township to be more dense. Nobody. Nobody's ever said that. So I appreciate, this is an old document. There are definitely updates. There's a lot of parts that, you have to look in 50 different sections, and I like a lot of stuff, a lot of things about this, but if a developer comes in, and I don't know why we lower our standards. If we have 2 units, and I've done it, I've approved, obviously, higher densities, but if they come in and they know they're gonna get 3, or they're gonna get 8, they're gonna get 3 or 8, or they're gonna ask for more. If they come in and the zoning commission says, okay, this makes sense here, they're able to make that determination. But if we have an automatic, they can't. If it meets the plan, we have to approve it. And I know it's designed to streamline it, but like I said, streamlining does not always add value to something. Everyone knows streamlined homes, every home built the same way. That's streamlining too, but it doesn't add any character. So my concern is, I'd like to know how much this increases the build out of Orange Township. Has anyone checked with the regional planning to see how making this change is anticipated to affect the number of residents?
I'm not sure what type of data they could collect, but we can definitely ask them and maybe just try to understand the trends that we've approved over the last 10 years to see,
Yeah.
and even in the surrounding areas too, to try to get understanding what's the average density approved for single family? What's the
Yeah.
average density approved? So that's something that maybe that can help with your guys' decision.
Yeah, because I serve the residents, I don't serve developers. And when someone comes in at any township and says, well, we're not going to be able to sell this, we're not going to be able to sell that, well, too bad. I mean, if you can't meet the density based on your own preferences, like we're seeing this trend or we're seeing that trend, or we need 20 units an acre and no one's wants yards, then they don't have to build here. I mean, we are so built up and so congested and there's so much traffic. I just don't see the purpose in increasing that in the future. That's my big objection to those parts.
And I will say, if we had a multifamily district that was 8 dwelling units an acre, it does go through the traditional rezoning process. So it's not an overlay that we don't really have a choice if they comply with everything. You do have a choice.
But they have
If they
8,
comply with everything and they have 8 units per acre,
we have
do
to.
we have to say yes?
Well,
How do we
but
get to say no?
it's very rare that we would be able to say no.
Yeah, I mean, I think our next step after this would be to update our comprehensive land use plan, so then we would be able to identify areas that we would actually be willing to accept that. Right now, we don't have any areas left. that we would, maybe, there might be one, and we can
Yeah,
try to show
but if there's
that
no
too.
areas left, then I don't know why we're doing this now. We
It's
could-
more for redevelopment
Yeah,
purposes in
but
the
we could
future.
do the basics now, and then some of the redevelopment maybe later. I'm just, we had this situation with the corridor overlay where that ended up being a complete disaster, and people spent so much time on that and thought it was great. We have a self-storage building being built at North Orange near residential because it wasn't properly defined, and also in the overlay. And, situations like that where things are changed, and then developers are very slick, and they come in and they find a loophole, and something none of us could have even imagined, with some of these things.
Yeah.
But, I agree with some of the changes, but I disagree that streamlining everything, we have 200 and some planned residential districts, but each of those was kind of custom crafted, and it's given us a lot of character. All of our neighborhoods are different. We have different, winding streets, some have different styles of buildings, some have more open space, some have less, but they're all kind of unique in their own way. And I just don't want to see us be like City of Columbus, where everything's the same, or even, City of Delaware. I like Delaware, but it's very dense, and everything just kind of looks the same. It's
Yeah.
very modern, very urban, which we kind of are, but I don't want it to see us go. I'm a little bit worried about.
Yeah, no,
the overall
I completely
implications.
understand. Like I said, we'll provide some data, and if the board wants to go back to the original density, there's, nothing is set in stone today. The zoning commission advocated for it, and, there was plenty of conversations, but that doesn't mean, obviously, you guys know we can change it. So, I have a laundry list of to-dos that I'd like to go over at the end, but,
Yeah.
On the
'cause-
topic.
Oh,
go
do we
ahead.
have more public comment?
Yes,
Yeah, go
I had a
ahead.
question
I have a few
about
more questions.
those
Go ahead.
related to
Yeah.
density as well. So we have adopted a new community authority policy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, Director Duffy, can you talk to how that's incorporated into the new code?
Yeah, so basically, any rezoning, there's a line in Article 21, which requires any rezoning to multifamily or planned use, planned unit development would require those projects to go into the, they have to comply with the new community authority policy, which says that, the new community authority policy says that projects rezoning to those districts have to join the new community authority created by Orange Township. So that would, in theory, levy additional taxes onto those new developments to offset their infrastructure demands.
So and the residents of those communities, the PUDs, right, and the NCA, or the multifamily, they would pay that tax, the additional millage, and that money goes towards infrastructure?
yeah.
So infrastructure to the layman is roads outside of their development that say you need to have a turn lane, that kind of thing? Like, what's infrastructure?
We can be a little creative, with the needs. If there is a major road that's, we would work with legal, but it wouldn't be just in the immediate area. It can be in the surrounding area, which could be half the township. So,
And it could be their own roads. Could it be their own roads, like within their development? Because we have to pay for those if they're not private.
Generally not, because, when a new development comes in, a traffic study is usually required. And the traffic study determines that, okay, they have to build this, turn lane or extra lane or whatever that improvement is. They have to put in a light at an intersection. Those are required. Those would not necessarily be covered under the new community authority.
yeah, we have done compensation agreements for private infrastructure in the past with our TIFs, but that is not something we have to do with the new community.
But when a
But if they were
multi-
township roads, yes, we
If they're
would be
township
able to
roads, yeah,
use those
because if a
community development
multifamily,
charges.
because and I think you spearheaded it, right? Trustee Ringel spearheaded this our very first new community authority, which we all very much appreciate. It's very technical. And so that money could be used to basically help these residents pay their own
Yeah,
way.
if they're putting extra demands on infrastructure, it helps those new
is
residents
helpful.
to help pay for that infrastructure rather than putting that burden back on existing residents.
Yeah,
Who
and that
holds
is
the
great.
pocket of money?
The new community authority,
Is
which is
there-
appointed by
So
this
it's
board.
like, it would be similar
Board,
to
right.
our joint economic development district. It's its own political subdivision. It's a board that makes those decisions with the money, what to use with it.
And that's multifamily or a planned unit development. So if it's a
Yes.
neighborhood zone that comes in, that would not apply.
Yeah, and then we have our JED for commercial or industrial plan districts. Is that,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, so anyone, and that's a requirement in the new code. So that's something, they'll have to be paying an income tax, anyone that comes into the commercial and industrial on their,
In a planned district.
yeah, and their income and their, but not a straight district.
Plan district, commercial and industrial in a plan district, not the straight, like, flex employment zone. Like, they don't have
Can you
to
do-
join
I
the
don't,
JED.
is it, what did we do?
It's in the new community authority policy, not the zoning.
I think any
I
type
know
of
if-
zoning change for industrial and commercial related projects would have to go into the JED. I just.
We make sure that we're allowed to do the, make sure that's in there, and that
I
way.
know the planned unit districts did, but I don't know if the other ones do.
Right, yeah, check on that, because basically those areas will be paying income tax for their profits, like the corporate profits, and also personal income tax, subject, of course, to a reduction if they pay income tax through, like Columbus and things. But at least they'll be paying some money to Orange Township for their development, which is something that's pretty new, so that should help at least.
So I did find the policy, so it requires any property within a residential development that has a density greater than 3 units per acre. So it doesn't matter if it's single-family or multifamily.
That's the
Is
new
this the
community
NCA?
authority.
That it would have to join the new community authority.
3 units or greater.
So even residential.
So even a neighborhood zone.
Well, it couldn't be done in the neighborhood zone because that limit is 3, but if it
Oh,
was a.
greater
plan-
than 3.
Yes, if it was a plan, if it was a single-family subdivision that was approved under the plan unit district, then it would have to join the new community
So
authority.
over 3.
Okay.
Can you see what the JED language is? by
It looks
chance?
like it's in the planned unit development text, like Article 10, Section 10.0110. If I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, I will confirm with legal, but I'm not sure if we can require the JED in a straight district, but I know I know we can for sure in a planned
Planned
district.
unit,
I just need to
right.
confirm if we can, if it's an option for a straight district.
Correct.
So would most companies come in and just do the straight district, I guess, depending on where it's at? I mean, would that be a way to get around it?
If they complied with everything,
You know what I mean? Check into that, because I would hate to have that inconsistency. Can you look into, put that on the list?
Yeah.
And where, Mike, where did you say that was? 10?
Article 10, 10.0110.
Number 10.
I can do that.
It might be on page 108.
Should have given page number.
I don't know.
Is it in 108?
I said maybe.
It's on page 150 of the red line.
Yeah, that's what I say.
Oh,
It might not
okay,
be.
wait, I'm in the- okay. Wait, 150?
Yes, in the bottom left corner. Do we have other public comments?
Well, I have a red line. You get the red line version. He said,
Yeah.
no, that's not the right page. Here, let me see.
Mark Freeman, 478 Glenside Lane, Powell. Full disclosure, I'm an alternate zoning commissioner. I was not able to vote on the draft because my services were not required for this. We had plenty of zoning commissioners available. I wanted to address a couple of points. One is about something that simply isn't in the document at all. We have a lot of verbiage related to lighting requirements. I was surprised that even in the new version, we have nothing about sound requirements. If someone wants to build a car wash with all the vacuums and everything else next door to a residential lot, we have nothing to say about that. That acoustic spillover, which would directly impact the quiet enjoyment, if you will, of that residential property, we have nothing to say about that. And I think that's a serious omission. We had, in the last year or two, we had an application at the corner of 23 and
Lewis Center Village.
Lewis Center,
Lewis Center Road.
where they wanted to build a car wash, again, directly adjacent to a residential property, without there being any requirement for anything in the way of acoustic buffering of any kind. I mean, that was turned down, thankfully, but there was that possibility there, and I just felt really badly for that particular homeowner that that might have gotten approved for lack of that. To address Ms. Knapp's comment earlier, I just want to state for the record that I am a resident of Lewis Center, Lewis Township, Orange Township. The jurisdictions here are so complicated, and I've been here for 6 years, and I'm still trying to get my words wrapped around it. But as a resident of Orange Township, I would like to see higher density. Not to say that we should knock down single-family homes and build apartment buildings, but I think that for future development, having some areas where we could build at a higher density so that we might provide for more affordable housing for, say, teachers in the school district, to be able to actually live in the school district, I think would be great. We have a real lack of workforce housing. It's the nature of being a relatively rural area, but there's nowhere for the people that work in the restaurants and in the retail establishments that we are so busy trying to attract to live in the area in which they work. And so we need to find some way of moving in that direction without compromising our standards of living for the folks that are already here. We, along with every other place in Ohio, tend to approve new development before we necessarily have the road capacity to support them. The big state transportation project on 23 is just a small example of where we're at 3 or 4 times road capacity before they're starting to implement anything to address that. And I imagine that there is a possibility for this board to maybe work more closely in conjunction with county engineering to address some of these issues. One that came up in a recent hearing I attended was North Road, also Lewis Center Road, are getting kind of overloaded. And before we build more on that or approve any more developments on that, it would be great if we could address some road widening, some more controls on the road, stop signs, traffic lights, that kind of thing. So that's not really a comment on the zoning draft, but just in general, there's got to be some way where we can kind of get ahead of things more than we have been in the past. And that's certainly not something limited to Orange Township. On the topic of neighborhood churches, I think the concept of having a small neighborhood church is kind of cool. You don't see that very often in areas like that. Where I've seen it mostly is in more urban areas. And since what we're generally talking about are areas that aren't particularly walkable, there needs to be enough parking provided for these places, in order for them to really fit in without causing more parking and traffic problems and all that. So I just want to say I'm generally in support of the idea, but if you will, the devil is in the details on how that gets implemented. I'm very, very interested in the electronic signs. I am very forcefully against them. I provided something like 6 or 7 pages of written testimony at BZA about the proposal by McDonald's to put in a sign north of Lewis Center Road. One of the issues with them is that as the technology advances, it's going to advance way faster than code is going to be able to keep up. And those signs, even now, have almost infinite capability, which can be adjusted, which can be turned on and off, which makes enforcement of any kind of regulation of them very, very difficult. Because if there is something that is clearly non-compliant with some regulation that we put in place, it takes somebody 3 seconds to go and change it so it's compliant until we look the other way and then they just put it back. So I'd like to head that off by, as you have said, just keeping them out of here. And I agree with restricting them just to the schools and government buildings. I think that's plenty. We don't need signboards playing full motion movies along 23. The distraction potential is just crazy. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And Mark, I know you were at a lot of the zoning commission hearings as they were going through this, so thank you for your time, even if you were not sitting at the table.
Yeah, and I want to address some of your comments, Mr. Freeman. Regarding the small neighborhood churches, I agree. I like those a lot, but what's being proposed is huge, huge churches. You know, like, these are massive buildings, and they're unlimited. Am I correct, Ms. Ross? They're typically large buildings. And I would, unless there was. 8,000, almost 8,000 square feet. Yeah, they're very large. And I don't know if we can put, like, I think we need some kind of standards, if we're legally allowed to, in place for some of them, because if they have no standards, if we're legally allowed, I don't know if we could, have the minimum size, but some of them are quite the behemoths that I don't think were anticipated when the code was done.
When you're looking at a church that's maybe the size of an elementary school or bigger, I don't see how that's compatible with a residential neighborhood.
Right.
I'm talking about more your quote-unquote storefront kind of churches that, maybe would hold 50 or 100
Yeah.
people.
But there's no
kinda like
regulations.
The old rural churches.
Oh, yeah.
Little
back in the
country
day.
church, yeah.
No, I'm in
Not
favor of
these- not
those.
These new mega churches.
But it's all churches right now, it's just any church.
Well,
There's-
as long as they comply with the setbacks, the lot
So
size, coverage.
they can come and build a big or small, there's no differentiation. I'm not sure if we're allowed to discriminate against a bigger or small. We're gonna look into
Yeah,
it,
I
but I love the idea of the smaller churches. I do agree with that. I just don't, under the current, the way it's written and maybe even legally, I don't know if we are even able to regulate the size, if that
Yeah, I
makes
mean,
sense.
If we can't, we can't,
Right.
but if we can come up with some delineation.
If it's legal, yeah.
Of sizes, scopes, and say, oh, well, what we would consider a small church could be within or adjacent to a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
But a medium or large, no.
And so that's what we need to, and they also, I think, have unlimited building height in some cases. They can build something 60 or 70 feet tall, the spire, can be, there's no limitation on that. So you could have some kind of tower that is 60 feet tall, and it's happening now, and that, is not always very.
Yeah, I think we need to figure out what we can, on a development standard size for churches, what
Yeah.
can we actually
Yeah, we'll
restrict?
look into it, but I do support the smaller
Yeah.
churches. It's just that's not what's being requested now. Everyone's
Yeah.
building the
And-
large
and
mega.
For some religions, they require domes and other architectural features that, I don't know if we accommodate in the zoning or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the commercial district, I do like the idea of some of them going into the commercial district, because the nature of churches has changed so much over the past few years. They've become large. Back in the old days, they were small little meeting
right,
places,
yeah.
and now they're just all mega churches, so you have any denomination. So we can look, I don't know if we can do, we'll look into that, but I did want to mention that. And then regarding the infrastructure, by law, we're not allowed to stop any development for infrastructure reasons. So someone could come in and propose a 1,000 unit development, you know, a huge, massive BJ's, whatever we have, and we have to approve it, and we're not allowed to put any kind of infrastructure requirements. That goes to the county engineer, and the county might require them to make, install left turn, right turn, but they're never required to do that in advance, because, you know, just in case the project doesn't go through. So the law doesn't allow us to force them to make those kind of expenditures. We have to pretty much approve it. So we have unfortunately no control, which is where, as we get increased densities, the roads get busier and busier.
But we are
So-
looking at implementing those tools that we've talked about, that when there is higher density,
Yeah,
these
the
tools will
NCAs,
hopefully
yeah.
be in place to help provide for additional
Yeah, in the
revenue.
future, yeah.
To build out that infrastructure faster.
But not for like
But we-
single family
we're-
and things like that, yeah.
To
Or,
Trustee Knapp's point, we can't base our zoning decisions on,
yeah, you
traffic.
can't even consider traffic at all. It's not even legal. And then the last, so the density, I agree. I wish we had more affordable housing. But when you live in an area where the land is going for, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars an acre, even if you did develop something at 16 units per acre, those will still rent for $3,000 a month. There, because of the market demands, in Orange Township, it is not possible to build affordable housing unless someone was somehow subsidizing it. So a developer would come in and say, ooh, now you're allowing 8 or 16 units per acre, or 20 or whatever. And then they literally could make, 500 studio apartments and charge $2,000, and people would pay it. So increased density might seem like it would actually create more affordable housing, but in an area where it's in such high demand, it ends up just making some developers wealthy, or some rental property owners wealthy, because they can command the higher prices. Even look at Chesapeake Village, which I think is right behind your house, correct? And those are relatively small, and they go for $3,000, $3,500, a month in some cases. And even if there was a higher density, then they would go, twice the density. It'd be $2,000 a month. 4 times the density, it would be $1,500 a month. So that's the unfortunate part, is people have a right to sell and develop their land, and of course they're going to want the most money that they can. So that's the difficulty in Delaware County, finding any properties that will sell for a lower amount, and people,
We ask every time, they always tell us it's going to be market rate.
and market rate's insane. I mean, no young people can even, sadly, afford to live in the area, or
Just in the last
it's
couple of
hard.
weeks, I had a developer say that what they were looking to develop was something that they considered a part of first-time home buyer entry-level housing at only $350,000.
350?
$350, yeah.
Oh, and now they're saying
Good deal.
450 or 500 is the entry level. I mean, that's the entry level cost now, and they can command it. So when they're allowed to make smaller lots, they just cram more houses in, and they make more money, It's
Yeah.
just the way, I mean, if in some communities, maybe not so much, like maybe farther north, some of the properties are, maybe cost a little bit less, but in Orange Township, there's such a demand, and, they can come in and develop, and the person selling the property wants to get the most money they can, and then they want to recoup on their investment. So it's very hard without someone coming in and directly saying, we're going to take a hit on this and, sell it for half price, and people just don't do that. So the concept is good. It's just in reality, we all support that, I think, here, and we've looked into it, but property values right now are just so high,
Yeah, and so we have to kind of look at what's the community good of what somebody wants to develop. If they're not going to be providing lower cost housing than what they would otherwise, why would we want to let them squeeze 3 more houses into a development in a given plot of land
Right.
than what they?
And we have no control over what they sell it for. We can ask,
Right.
like, what's your, like, even those, those beautiful Epcot condos, some of them at Clear Creek going for $950,000 for relatively, it's a beautiful community, but imagine trying to sell that as high-density, lower-cost housing. And so when you ask the developer, well, what price are you going to be charging, what rental rate, and they give you some random number, they aren't even, held to that. That's just for our own information. So we have no idea. So what they would do is buy it and say, oh, 8 units an acre, we want lower-cost housing. And then they could rent it for whatever. Yeah, it'd be like saying like a very small unit. So it's very difficult when an area to live. I mean, it's good that we live in an affluent area where the housing prices are going up and people are productive. But then the downside of that is, there's not a lot of affordable housing for our own children,
Yeah,
and
I moved here
workers.
6 years ago, and I have been shocked at how the value of my property.
Yeah, same.
It's
It's probably doubled.
It's
So,
astounding.
yeah, so we are interested in that, just, it's hard to regulate that, if that makes sense. I just wanted to answer those questions,
Yeah.
if that's helpful.
Well, another thing we don't seem to have here that we see in other relatively nearby areas are things like doubles, where you've got 2 units.
Right, the
Like
duplex.
joined on a common garage, for example.
And the new code, Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, so that neighborhood zone is like 1 to 2 units, right? Can you speak to that a little bit smarter than I just sounded?
So duplexes would be permitted in the neighborhood zones, still subject to the density of 3 units.
Yeah, but again, those won't be really any cheaper. I mean,
Probably not.
they'll still be elevated. So, I mean, I'm not even a big fan of duplexes because in certain areas, duplexes make sense. You could buy one half and rent the other, but around here, it's just going to end up being an extremely high-priced duplex. And then the developer makes the money because they can have increased density. It doesn't benefit the community. It's just, it's hard.
But again, those provide a way, like you were saying, buy the whole thing, rent out half. Now you can afford to live in a place that you possibly couldn't otherwise.
Yeah, but,
Assuming you could get the mortgage money.
or then that duplex would probably be $800,000, like,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
rough.
And that's okay, it still gives somebody an opportunity to use the property they're buying
As an investment?
to kind of move up.
Yeah, but, or they could develop it, it just depends, because they'll just develop it in the method that they will make the most money in the end. And then the developer profits, and it's never the homeowner these days, it's always the developer. They get the most density they can, they sell the biggest houses they can on the smallest plots of land. If they could build 20 houses on one piece of property versus 10, they will, and then they'll, double their profits. It's the developer who's really winning, because it's a buyer's market right now.
Yeah.
Do we have any
Yeah.
other comments?
Yeah, any more
noise.
comments? Thank you.
To address the noise question.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the noise. Can we
yeah.
regulate noise?
No.
Through
No,
zoning?
yeah, I'm sorry, I can say that
Go ahead.
afterwards.
Go
Kristen Hartman, 150 South Parkway Drive. As has been explained eloquently this evening, increased density creates huge problems.
Thank you.
Hi, Dale Shields. I live at 7907 Manorgate Street. As Lisa said, she's never heard anyone talk about high density, adding high density to this area. I think we have more than enough high density. As I was talking to Mike earlier, we're surrounded by high density. Lozelle, it's nothing but apartments. Sancus, nothing but apartments. That new development, well, it's 10, 15 years old at the corner of South Old State and Polaris, that high-end apartment building. And then back behind South Old State, where they actually took people's homes to build high-density housing. And then that monstrosity that's out on Lewis Center. All right, and you said you're from Powell zoning?
No,
I thought you lived in Powell, or you?
Part of
Cow
it.
mailing
He
address,
lives-
but
Yeah, he lives in my neighborhood. It's actually Green Meadows, High Meadows area that, it's Powell mailing address, but it's still Orange Township.
Okay, because I thought he said Powell zoning, because
Nope.
where's all the high density in
it's-
Powell?
No.
Yeah, no, it's Powell mailing address, but, we have like 8 zip codes here. Does that make sense?
Powell bought that Target development for what, 5 years? So, I'm sorry, I thought you were from Powell. I thought you worked with Powell zoning, but if it's not good for Powell, it's certainly not good for
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So that's what I'm going to record for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments? Administrator Bonnie, you were saying something about the township's inability to potentially regulate sound through zoning?
Yes, that is a excellent way to put it. We do reference our noise ordinance policy in the code. That is about as much as we can do, and that is regulated and enforced by the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. So when uses come in with, like a car wash, for instance, I don't believe there's probably a better way to say it legally, and we'll have our legal counsel here at the next one to provide that, but noise is a very difficult thing to regulate.
We cannot regulate it by law, other than the noise
So,
resolution?
Yeah, so the Ohio Revised Code states that townships have the ability to regulate noise in residentially zoned districts.
So
And,
not
and
commercial.
for certain commercial establishments that have certain type of liquor permits, but not for general commercial or
So
industrial.
the noise emanating from a residential area, not being heard in a residential area?
Correct.
Is that right?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Huh.
Unfortunate.
No, I think, yeah. Now, we do have the noise resolution, but that's like, it has to be 15 minutes it has to be from a residential, I guess, a neighbor with barking dogs or whatever. So 15 minutes straight at a certain, like, where you can hear it 100 feet off the property line or whatever. So that's about
And
it.
our noise ordinance matches the noise ordinance of all the other townships in the county.
Yeah, Delaware County, yeah.
Because we've had some concerns recently.
Yeah, I think that I've seen some residential people like pursue private, like a civil matter, like against a data center I saw in Delaware, where the decibel level was so high that it made him go crazy because it was loud 24/7. And I think they did sue and they won. So there are some private civil things that can be done with the, excessive noise, but I don't know how to define that. But I guess we can't regulate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for referring to the ORC, Ohio Revised Code, because I did not know that.
Yeah, that's a good question, though. I mean, I was wondering why you don't have that in there.
I don't know that we have any other public comment at this time.
So what's the next step?
I think I have some to-dos for us, if you don't mind me sharing them.
Oh, please do.
Okay, so based on the trustees and the resident feedback, again, thank you all for being here. I think our to-do list internally would be to provide the changes that are shown in the farm residential district and the neighborhood commercial zone. We will also provide a clean version of the tables as just to show, again, reference them throughout our discussion. We will look at either defining or adding definition of institution, because we don't have that in our definition section, but it's referenced in the signage section. And then that kind of goes with the electronic messaging signs to potentially either create stricter standards for them or remove it entirely, as two options for that. I will work with legal counsel to see if we can increase the maximum maximum feet that we are required to notice residents when a zoning is changed. I will also work with legal counsel on to see whether our joint economic development district can be a requirement in a straight district. As far as the density questions go, I think we've heard that loud and clear, but I would still like to provide the data and trends to show, and that, again, that if that's something that we don't want to change, we do not. That's simply put. I will also work with legal counsel on the tree replacement program, if there can be of some sorts. We have more landscaping standards than we've had before, but trying to have some enforcement for a tree, if a tree is dead or cut, or, something that was part of the inventory, and they remove it, and, having some type of enforcement to replace that. I would like to meet.
Or, Michelle, they could have a credit, maybe too. It could be like, if you preserve this many trees, you get a little bit, if we can't do that, maybe a higher density or, some other bonus. It might be
Okay.
I don't know which one's legal.
Sorry, a credit for.
Like if they did say, if we can't force them to retain trees, then maybe we could incentivize them by saying, if it's legal.
Okay.
If you save this many trees or that, then we might provide like a slight density bonus or
Okay,
something, or
Give,
possibly, if we're not allowed to actually put that into place. I just thought of that.
Okay, I will look at that. I would also like to meet with the residents in the Lewis Center Village District to not only discuss the overlay district more in depth, but to see if we should even have it, or is it something we should expand the farm residential district on, or, trying to find that balance between, as Robin has mentioned, putting a lesser burden on them when it comes to zoning, but also not changing the character of their neighborhood. I will also work with legal on the conversations we've had with churches to see, one, if they need to be required in the farm residential district, and if they do have to be required, to see if we can put any type of standards in place to potentially reduce the size of them, the height, just something to not, basically not put a ginormous church in the middle of a small neighborhood. So if there is ways that we can kind of go through that with our zoning, we'll look into that. Let's see.
It seemed like from that conversation, it goes through the Board of Zoning Appeals, so there's not as much oversight and,
And they're really
conversation,
only,
discussion
and it's
about-
not really, it's not necessarily for the use, it could be for the setback, or it really.
Correct.
And
So I
then,
think it'd be helpful to know what regulations
Okay,
are applicable to churches in the
Yes.
zoning context, that we might be able to, if it's not necessarily that we can restrict height, that we might be able to at least have an application process where that's vetted through the public.
okay. I believe that was everything. I think the plan for the next meeting is to address all those things, and then go from next step from
Right, and I
there.
had a couple more comments. Robin, are we looking at, like, more defining the criteria for things like conditional use permits for home occupations, and like the criteria that the board, because during a hearing for like a home occupation, it doesn't really, well, and it might be by law, but it doesn't always say the criteria that has to be met for or against approval. So I'd like to make sure the residents that live nearby have some control over it, but also the criteria for approval. So if someone verbally states something at a hearing, like, we're only going to have 5 customers a day, unless that's made part of the motion, it doesn't appear that it's, might not be legal. So I don't know if we've tightened that up or not.
I will say, and we can present that more in depth
Yeah.
at the next meeting too. We have expanded a lot on that, so
I
there
saw
is
that.
like a minor and major
I don't
now.
like the major, 50%. I don't, if you live in a residential area, I'm not, we can get to that, but allowing someone to use 50% of their house for an occupation, I mean, I like to keep the residential and commercial areas separate, but that's just me. And then, but I just had a couple questions though. So on the one, Robin, when you were reading the, let's see, the zoning diagnostics recommendations at the beginning, it said, develop design guidelines and landscaping requirements that promote the kind of aesthetics the community desires. So I want to make sure that we all know what aesthetics the community desires, because I don't know how do we define the kind of aesthetics that the community desires?
I mean, I think what that's referring to is the feedback that was gathered from the comprehensive land use plan. And
Okay.
we did some data collection on that during our public open houses for the zoning code, but the majority of that was done through the land use plan.
Yeah, because and I know it's a 2018, I'm not sure if the two are really matching. And then it says increase density maximums and decrease minimum lot sizes wherever possible to begin utilizing land more sustainably and efficiently within the township. Again, I think you've heard some comments today that I'm not sure if we want to increase the densities and decrease lot sizes. And then there was, let's see here, under, just a minute, the conclusions. In most cases, the setbacks, lot sizes, density standards, and building heights are currently prohibitive to creating the kind of character that is desired in the plan. And that goes back to, I want to make sure that we're having the character that the current residents want, the kind of character and the density that people who live here now want, and that we're not catering to developers, because Orange Township is a hot place to live, and they want to come and build here, they're gonna build here. I don't think we're desperate for development. And I was a little concerned about the maximum height for the signage, so we can review that, but we will still have a maximum height based on size, right? So it won't look cheesy. I want to make sure it doesn't look like just signs everywhere at all different heights. What do you,
No, so the current draft has it as there is no maximum height for building signage. The size is,
dictates that?
yeah, so
Okay.
Relative
the
to the
size
size
is
of the
based
building.
on
Right, the size, I'm a
of
little
the
bit, we can talk about that next time, but that does concern me, because, I've been doing zoning since 1998, half my life, and that was always a concern, that we want to keep the area looking nice with the smaller signs and not too high and looking,
So it still keeps them, am I correct in thinking keeps them small, it just might move them higher up the face of the building?
I just, if there's no maximum height, I guess it could be 50 feet up, right? If that's the maximum height of the building, you could have a sign at 50 feet. And that, to me, is just, we can talk about it next time, but I just wanted to give you a warning that when you were talking about that, I was a little bit concerned about the signage. And then someone had mentioned that we've been having a lot of variances and things, but I like that, I like it when the boards hold to our standards. We don't have to grant everything that comes through, and, we're the most dense township in all of Delaware County. We do have a massive commercial, corridor, and that makes us a little bit different, but I would really like to just, like I said before, hold the line on density, and sometimes just say, we're just not going to agree to this. We're going to hold the line on the density, and I would kind of like to start getting back to just saying no. It will make sense in some areas with certain parcels, like maybe against a railroad track or something, but I want to make sure that, I think there's still plenty of people that want a decent-sized yard. It doesn't have to be an acre, but, not everyone wants a tiny yard, and then you get everyone crammed in together, and that's not even good for community relations sometimes when you have too many people, so. Okay, that's all, thanks.
So, speaking of that, Robin, a number of years ago, you had given me this chart that had like all the setbacks from the different subdivisions. Is there a column that you could add that added the density? It's for the different subdivisions.
Sure.
Okay, that'd be helpful, just so
Yeah.
we can see, because if we might already be.
I don't know that we'll go through all.
Yeah, we're already.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if that, there's a lot of
A
stuff. we need to-
sampling.
Yeah,
It
and I
just-
think regional planning might actually have some of that data too,
Yeah,
so.
it just seems to get higher and higher as
I
time
guess my
goes
question
on.
is, are we in the single family specifically, not the multifamily, so not our townhome sections or condo sections, but like, are we already at 2.5? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the density numbers that
It
were
is
picked
different.
were based on trends, I just don't have
Yeah.
the data to
Yeah.
show.
I just want to make sure it doesn't trend
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
dense,
Yeah.
because, like I said, developers are here to make money off of us. They're not here to contribute to our community, I don't think.
Yeah.
And my brain doesn't necessarily know what a 3-unit per acre subdivision looks like versus like what mine is. So maybe if like, hey, Erica, this is what a 3-unit one is, this is
Yeah,
what a
and
2
it
is,
might
this
make
is a-
sense, but I just want
Yeah.
to make sure we're not lowering it so it's automatically granted. They come in and we're automatically
Yeah.
granted, but, there could be a middle ground.
I understand.
Thanks.
So, yeah, I think, just to add on to my to-do list, we will present further on the home occupation section. Well, I think we might have some models or renderings to kind of show what the signs would look like with the new standards, so that might be helpful to paint a picture. Or we can try to do something, excuse me. And then I'll also, with our, density conversation, to talk about the lot sizes too and what that looks like, so.
Yeah, and it'll be helpful to know, like, how the zoning process will look different.
Yeah.
Versus now they come in and they do this and that. What will that zoning hearing process look like in real time? Like, how would it differ?
From a straight district versus a planned district?
Yeah, like, what
Yeah.
could happen? What will it look like, and how would it would be automatically approved, and, things like that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, probably not like just what are the meetings, but like, where do we have the ability to say no, thank you?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I will invite legal to attend the next meeting to kind of help with the conversations too, so. So hearing all that, I would like a lot of time to get this together. And then next steps today is to ask the board to continue this review for another date.
Do we need to set that date?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
How much time would you like?
I'll be honest, I would like several weeks, just because of the amount of information that we want to put together, not only, and then also have some meetings and further discussions and potentially more one-on-ones with individuals. We were obligated to do a 30-day hearing from the time zoning commission recommended approval, so we wanted to at least do this introduction. But if there was an opportunity to do it either like end of September, early October, that would be an ideal timeline for us.
I'd prefer sooner rather than later, but I understand that there's a lot of information that we're processing.
I mean, we can have one sooner, I just will not be able to get everything to you.
What
So-
about, like, are you thinking early October?
Yeah, end of September, early October. But, I mean, we can continue, if you want me to do everything that I just shared, I just need more time, so.
I'd rather not do it on a trustee meeting night.
Yeah. What about like the October 8th? I know it's hard to
Or
look.
September 24th? That's like 8 weeks from today.
Like I said, if we.
Or late August for some of the answers.
I'd rather push out a little farther.
Because I think we're going to probably have a third meeting out of our next meeting.
Yes.
So
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'd prefer to, if possible, have a zoning code rewrite in place before the end of the year.
That
Just
would
so-
be great if we could.
Yeah, I just don't want to rush it too much. There's
Agreed.
a lot. I think it's going to take
I
many
mean, we
meetings.
can do one
I
in
think it's gonna-
August. I just would like to try to focus, I mean, I can try to put this together. I just
What about
don't get
September
mad at me if I don't get everything.
Well, I'm sure we'll generate more questions, so I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to be,
Yeah.
What about
holistic at
I
one
think
time.
it's going to take several meetings.
What about September 10th? That's like 6 weeks.
I won't be here, but
Oh,
if
but
you
we
want
should
to
be
do
here.
that.
No, I'd like you.
We're at the 24th. Did you say the 24th? Wait,
September
Yeah, I said
24th?
initially, yeah.
Wednesday?
But that's 8 weeks out.
I mean, yeah, that's, again, that's fine. It's
What about August 27th?
I will not,
that's all right.
I mean,
That's
since we're
fine.
gonna have multiple meetings, we'll ensure legal is here with Robin and they can tag team and then I can help them put together the information ahead of time, so. You just. But yeah, no, August
on vacation.
27th is available here for this evening, so.
We can call her in.
She will not answer. She'll be on vacation.
Yeah, August 27th, and again, we'll just try to put as much information as we can. We'll have we'll put like an agenda, and then, the things that Robin will do what's next, and, put together the things that are outstanding, and take it from there.
Can we do 6 o'clock again?
August 27th? Does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Residents, thank you guys so much for coming. We very much appreciate your time and your feedback. Just me speaking, but if anybody wants to talk with me offline and sit down and have meetings as well, I don't ever meet with residents without staff, so I will coordinate with that with staff schedule, but if that's something that you would be interested in doing, I have lots of notes that I get to go over with staff next week, so, if anyone wants to do that,
I think we're all,
Yeah.
willing and happy to meet with you as well. So we can't unfortunately meet in groups of 2 for open meeting purposes. So if you want to share the same information with multiple trustees, you'll have to do it individually, but we're happy to meet with you.
Yeah, or if you have any friends or neighbors that might be interested in as well, because this is on YouTube, so they can also watch the video, and you guys can always send emails, calls, any kind of feedback is welcome.
we
You don't have to
appreciate it.
come to the meeting, yeah. Thank you.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 25-204, a resolution to continue the public hearing for zoning application ZON 2405 zoning code rewrite to Wednesday, August 27th at 6 p.m.
Second?
Trustee Ringel?
Yes.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
And Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.